a sharp knife, a sizzling pan. When Maya Chen steps into the prestigious culinary competition, whispers follow her through the gleaming kitchen, the daughter of immigrant shopkeepers with hands that have never known fine dining. But beneath her, modest exterior lies a heritage of flavors that will silence every doubt. The timer starts. Now let the revelation begin. Before we dive into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from. The afternoon sun painted golden streaks across the polished windows of Maids. Inside, crystal glasses caught the light and threw it back in prismatic bursts. White tablecloths draped like fresh snow over mahogany tables. The restaurant hummed with the gentle cadence of silver against porcelain and hushed conversations about stock portfolios and summer homes. Catalina Reyes paused at the entrance, fingers brushing the worn strap of her crossbody bag. Her linen skirt, comfortable but freshly pressed, swayed gently as the hostess station came into view. A subtle scent of citrus and spice clung to her, barely perceptible beneath the restaurant's atmosphere of truffle oil and reduction sauces. "Just one. Today?" she asked the host, a tall man with immaculate hair and a posture that suggested military training or finishing school, possibly both. He didn't immediately respond. His gaze traveled from her unmanicured hands to her sensible flats, lingering briefly on the small clay pendant hanging from her neck, a stylized bird her grandmother had given her years ago. "I think you're looking for the service entrance," he finally said, voice clipped and cool as the champagne chilling in silver buckets throughout the dining room. "We don't serve maids here." A waiter nearby, younger with fashionably angular eyebrows, snickered. "Maybe she's here to drop something off," he suggested, not bothering to lower his voice. Catalina didn't flinch, didn't raise her voice or demand to see a manager. She simply stood, dark eyes taking in the room with the silent assessment of someone who notices details others might miss, the slightly uneven spacing of the wall sconces, the minor chip on the corner of the marble bar, the way the acoustics carried whispers from the far corner. She nodded once, turned and walked out. Behind her, the host and waiter exchanged smirks before returning to their practiced poses of elegant indifference. They didn't see her pause outside to make a phone, cold thumbs swiping efficiently across her screen. Didn't hear her speak in rapid, confident Spanish to someone who answered immediately despite the late hour in Madrid. "Yes," she said, "I'm ready to move forward. The full amount we discussed." That evening, as servers polished the last of the stemware and chefs scrubbed down immaculate workstations, the restaurant's owner received a call. The offer was substantial, immediate and non-negotiable. All cash, a rare opportunity to sell high in a volatile market. By midnight, paperwork was signed, ownership transferred. "The staff meeting will be at 10 a.m. sharp," the new owner instructed. "Attendance is mandatory." "Of course," the former owner replied, already mentally counting the profit. "May I ask who I should tell them to expect?" Catalina Reyes. Morning arrived with San Francisco's signature fog, wrapping the city in cool embrace. Inside Maids, staff gathered nervously. Rumors of new ownership had spread fast, and change meant uncertainty in the restaurant business. The host from yesterday straightened his already perfect tie and whispered to the waiter beside him. "Probably some corporate restaurant group. Will be serving pedestrian food to tourists within a month." The door opened, and in walked Catalina Reyes. She wore a simple black blazer over a white shirt, her grandmother's rosary wrapped around one wrist. Her hair was pulled back in a practical knot. No designer labels, no flashy jewelry, just the same clay pendant from yesterday and a clipboard in her hands. The host's face drained of color. The waiter beside him took an involuntary step backward. "Good morning," Catalina said, voice clear and carrying. "I'm Catalina Reyes. As of today, I own this restaurant." She paused, allowing the ripple of surprise to move through the assembled staff. "And I believe in serving everyone, even the ones you don't bother to see." The host's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Ms. Reyes, yesterday was a misunderstanding. I didn't—" She held up one hand. "I'm not interested in apologies manufactured by fear. I'm interested in change." She looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. Some looked away. Others met her gaze with curiosity or apprehension. "I won't be firing anyone today," she said, noting the collective exhalation of relief. That's not my style, but there will be changes. In the back of the room, a tall man with broad shoulders and a face marked by focused intensity watched silently. Leo Martin, head chef, hadn't been present for yesterday's incident, but word had traveled fast. He studied the new owner with professional assessment and something more. The first change, Catalina continued, is our approach to hospitality. Every person who walks through that door deserves the same respect, whether they're wearing Louboutins or work boots. She moved toward the display of menus near the hostess station. The second change will be our menu. Chef Martin, I'd like to meet with you after this to discuss my vision. Leo nodded once, face unreadable. Finally, she said, we'll be closed for 2 weeks for renovations and retraining. Everyone will be paid during this time. Use it to reflect on what kind of restaurant you want to be part of. She tucked the clipboard under her arm. That's all. For now. Chef Martin, shall we? As the staff dispersed in clusters of urgent whispers, Leo followed Catalina to what was now her office. You've created quite a stir, he said, closing the door behind them. Not intentionally. No? His eyebrow arched skeptically. Buying an entire restaurant to make a point seems fairly intentional. I bought a restaurant because it was a good investment, she replied, setting her clipboard on the desk. Making? A point is just a bonus. Leo crossed his arms. And what point would that be? That assumptions are expensive. She sat down, gesturing for him to do the same. Your staff assumed I was the help because of how I look. That was their first mistake. And their second? Voicing it. She leaned forward. Tell me about your food, Chef Martin. The conversation shifted to cuisine. Leo described his classical French training, his time in Michelin-starred kitchens across Europe, his philosophy of refined simplicity. Catalina listened, occasionally making notes. Your technique is impressive, she said when he finished. But I'm more interested in your soul. My soul isn't on the menu. Maybe that's the problem. She slid her notes across the desk. I want to reimagine Maids, less exclusivity, more authenticity. Food that honors tradition while creating something new. How you want to lower our standards? I want to elevate your perspective. She stood. My family comes from Oaxaca. My grandmother could create flavors that would make your classical training blush, but she'd never be welcome in a place like this, not as a customer, and certainly not as a chef. Leo's jaw tightened. Cuisine has standards for a reason. Yes. And those standards were set by people who look like you, not people who look like me. She moved toward the door. Think about it, chef. I respect your talent, but I want food with heritage, not just pedigree. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. Catalina brought in designers to soften the restaurant's austere interior, adding warm woods and textiles that spoke of craftsmanship rather than cost. She recruited 3 young chefs from diverse backgrounds to join Leo's team, a move he initially resisted. They haven't trained at Le Cordon Bleu, he argued during a heated meeting in the half-renovated kitchen. No, they trained at their grandmother's elbows, Catalina replied. Just give them a chance. Reluctantly, he did, and discovered talent that startled him, especially in Maria, a 24-year-old whose understanding of chili peppers and chocolate made him rethink dishes he'd considered perfected. The menu evolved through tense negotiations and surprising breakthroughs. Leo insisted on maintaining certain French classics. Catalina pushed for Latin influences. They compromised, creating something neither had initially envisioned, but both grudgingly admitted might work. This dish needs something, Leo said late. One night, frowning at a plate of scallops, Catalina reached into her bag and pulled out a small jar. Try this, my grandmother's habanero salt. He did, adding just a pinch. His eyes widened at the first taste. How did you... Heritage, she said simply. The night before reopening, Catalina discovered Leo alone in the kitchen, studying an old menu from the restaurant's archives. Couldn't sleep, she asked. He didn't look up. I was remembering something. She moved closer, seeing the date on the menu 2 years prior. We had a special series, he said. Regional cuisines reimagined. I wanted to include Mexico, but the owner said our clientele wouldn't appreciate it. His finger traced the menu items, said we should stick to European influences, so I did. Catalina was silent for a moment. What would you have made? Mole negro with duck confit, corn soufflé with huit la coche, things that respected both worlds. And now? He finally looked at her. Now I wonder if I compromised too easily. Marais reopened to curious crowds. The restaurant world had buzzed with rumors about its dramatic change in ownership and direction. Critics came first, skeptical of the concept. Then influencers, drawn by the stunning presentation of dishes that defied easy categorization. The host, now thoroughly retrained, welcomed everyone with the same impeccable courtesy, whether they arrived in business attire or workers' clothes. The menu offered dishes at various price points, making special occasions accessible without sacrificing quality. And in the kitchen, Leo and his expanded team created food that told stories, of French techniques meeting Mexican flavors, of traditions respected and reinvented. 3 months later, the first major review appeared. 5 stars. The critic specifically mentioned a dish of confited squash blossoms stuffed with herbed goat cheese, served with a smoked tomato coulis that bridges continents with confident grace. Catalina printed the review and posted it in the staff area. Beneath it, she added a note. This is what happens when we see value everywhere. That evening, she stayed late, reviewing receipts in her office. A knock interrupted her concentration. Enter, she called. Leo appeared, still in his chef's coat but with the top buttons undone. Got a minute? Of course. He sat across from her, unusually hesitant. I've been thinking about what you said when you first arrived, about serving everyone. She set down her pen. And I realized something today. He leaned forward. When Maria suggested that modification to the sauce for the duck, the one with her mother's spice blend, my first instinct was to say no. But you didn't. No, I tried it first. And it was better than my version. He ran a hand through his hair. It made me wonder how many times I've dismissed ideas because they didn't come from the right schools or traditions. Catalina nodded slowly. That's a valuable realization. It's more than that. His eyes met hers directly. I'm not sure I would have served you before, not because you're Latina, but because I had a narrow definition of what belonged here. The admission hung between them. Catalina stood and walked to the small window overlooking the now empty dining room. There's something you should know, she said. Before all this, I designed kitchenware, started with clay pieces inspired by my grandmother's cooking tools, then expanded to modern interpretations. She turned back to him. The day I came in, I was celebrating a licensing deal that would take my designs national. I just finalized the contract, wanted to treat myself to a nice meal. Leo's expression shifted as the implications sank in. So when you bought this place, it wasn't revenge, it was opportunity. She smiled slightly, though I won't pretend. There wasn't satisfaction in the look on that host's face. I can imagine. Leo stood, moving closer. I've been working on something I'd like to show you, a new dish for the fall menu. I'm intrigued. It's not ready yet, but when it is... He hesitated. I'd like you to be the first to try it. She recognized the gesture for what it was. Not just professional respect, but something warming between them. I'd be honored, chef. 6 months after Catalina Reyes walked into Marais and was turned away, she sat at the best table in the house. The restaurant hummed around her, servers moving with practiced grace between tables filled with a diverse clientele. Executives in tailored suits sat near teachers celebrating birthdays. A group of hotel housekeepers occupied the corner booth, their laughter mingling with the more restrained chuckles from a table of tech entrepreneurs. Leo emerged from the kitchen, carrying a single plate. He set it before her with ceremony unusual for their now comfortable relationship. Presenting, he said with a formality belied by the warmth in his eyes, duck mole negro with caramelized plantain puree and ancho cherry reduction. The dish was beautiful. Modern in presentation but soulful in its aromatics. The scent transported Catalina instantly to her grandmother's kitchen while remaining distinctly Leo's creation. This is the dish, she realized. The one you wanted to make before, he nodded. Reimagined. Better now, I think. She took a bite, closed her eyes. The flavors were complex, harmonious, Tradition transformed through technique and respect. "Well?" he asked when she opened her eyes. "I think," she said slowly, "this belongs on the menu." And so did I all along. Around them, Maids continued its evening service, a place transformed not just by new ownership, but by a shift in perspective. The host, who once turned Catalina away, now greeted each guest with genuine warmth. The kitchen that once served only classical European cuisine now created boundary-crossing dishes that drew diners from across the city. And at the center of it all, Catalina Reyes, once dismissed, now respected, savored more than just excellent food. She tasted vindication, yes, but also the sweeter satisfaction of creating change without becoming bitter. "To seeing value everywhere," Leo said, raising his water glass in a quiet toast. Catalina smiled, lifting her own glass. "And to the courage to show our true worth, even when others can't see it." Outside, San Francisco's fog rolled in, wrapping the restaurant in its soft embrace. Inside, the warm lights of Maids illuminated not just fine food and elegant surroundings, but the transformative power of being truly seen. Sometimes the most valuable ingredient isn't found in exclusive markets or prestigious schools. Sometimes it's carried within, in heritage, in history, in the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your own worth, even when others fail to recognize it. That knowledge, once claimed, can transform not just a meal or a restaurant, but entire lives. One table, one plate, one moment of recognition at a time.